Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're getting into numerology,
Yeah.
specifically life path number 21. You know, using your birth date to reveal like hidden meanings and patterns and stuff. We've got articles, research, all sorts of stuff on this. And I'm really curious to see what we find. What do you think? Should we just dive right in?
Yeah, let's go for it. I think what's interesting about numerology is that it's not just about personality traits.
Yeah.
It can give you insights into like your strengths and weaknesses and even career path. It's more like a roadmap, not like a set destiny, but a way to kind of understand yourself better.
Okay, so life path number 21. What we got? So from what I've been reading, people born on the 21st tend to be pretty creative, charismatic,
Hmm.
even a little visionary.
Yeah.
Or sources even say they might be predisposed to leadership, like they were born with a megaphone in one hand and a paintbrush in the other. Pretty cool, right?
Right, definitely. That mix of creativity and charisma can be pretty powerful, but it's not always easy street, is it? There's this whole concept of karmic debt with Life Path 21 that we should probably talk about.
Yeah, karmic debt. Honestly, that's the part that really got me interested.
Mm.
What does that even mean? And how would it affect someone with this life path?
Okay, so karmic debt basically means that some people come into this life needing to balance out things from their past, like actions or experiences. It's like carrying unfinished business from a previous life. Now, for a Life Path 21, this might look like a really strong sense of responsibility, maybe feeling like they need to make up for something, or even attracting difficult situations that force them to grow.
So it's not really about punishment then. It's more like a push towards evolving as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a chance to learn and grow. And to help with that, people on this path often have strong intuition. They just have to learn to listen to it.
Makes sense. Like having an internal compass, but you have to actually pay attention to the signals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, our sources also point out some potential challenges for Life Path 21. One that really stood out to me was emotional turbulence. It's like that big emotions stereotype.
Okay, big emotions.
Yeah.
But how does that play out in their life? Are they just more sensitive?
It's more than just sensitivity. Think of it like a roller coaster of feelings. Super high highs, but also really intense lows. This can lead to being impulsive, having trouble focusing, even overthinking things. This is where self-awareness and coping mechanisms are super important.
So finding healthy ways to channel those big emotions, maybe through art or physical activity.
Exactly. And it's not just about managing the bad stuff. Those strong emotions are also what drive their amazing creativity and empathy. Think about it. Artists, writers, musicians, they all draw inspiration from their own emotions.
That's true. It's like they have this raw energy that can either consume them or fuel their creativity.
Yeah.
So finding balance is key.
Absolutely. And speaking of creativity, let's talk careers. It's not surprising that artistic fields are a good fit for a Life Path 21, right?
Yeah, that seems obvious. But what about other paths? Could they do well in like a corporate environment?
It's possible, especially with their natural leadership skills, but a really structured environment might feel too restrictive. They need creative expression, and they often have a strong sense of purpose.
So maybe something more entrepreneurial where they can be their own boss and make their own rules.
Now you're getting it. Entrepreneurship is often appealing because it lets them combine their creativity, leadership, and vision into something real. Plus, they're independent, so they're not afraid to take risks.
Interesting. And wouldn't that tie into their karmic debt too?
Yep.
Taking risks and making a difference sounds like a path full of growth opportunities.
It's almost like their soul is pushing them towards things that will challenge and change them. And speaking of people who change the world, our sources bring up Robin Williams, born on July 21st, a classic Life Path 21.
Robin Williams.
Right.
Oh, yeah. He was such a brilliant comedian, but also a really complex person. Do you think his career was a reflection of those typical Life Path 21 traits?
Let's see. His comedic genius, his ability to connect with people on such a deep level, that really shows the charisma and creativity of this life path. But as we know, his life was also full of struggles.
Yeah, those struggles, the darkness he dealt with, it was all very real. How does that fit into this?
It reminds us that even with all the gifts and potential, Life Path 21 isn't without its downsides. Those same big emotions that fuel creativity can also make them vulnerable to mood swings, addiction, and needing validation from others.
So is that common for a lot of 21s, this mix of brilliance and vulnerability?
It definitely comes up. Think about it. To create such amazing art to connect with others on that level, you almost have to be willing to face your own darkness. And that takes a lot of courage.
So his life story really shows how complex this life path can be. Incredible highs and heartbreaking lows, creative genius and personal struggles, all connected. It's a powerful example.
It is, and it brings up a really important question. What can we learn from this? What does all this mean for someone listening who might identify with life path number 21?
We've been talking about Robin Williams and how his life was almost like a textbook example of life path number 21, both the good and the bad. So if you're listening to this and thinking, wait, I was born on the 21st too, what does all this actually mean for you?
That's a good question. It's easy to get caught up in celebrities and theories, but the real value is when you can apply it to your own life. So let's talk about something that a lot of 21s might be wondering about: relationships.
Ah, relationships. That's a big one. And I do see in our research that people born on the 21st are supposed to have a lot of charisma that attracts people to them. But then there's that whole emotional intensity thing we were talking about. Doesn't that make things kind of complicated?
It definitely can. Imagine this. You meet someone and they have this magnetic energy, they're passionate and creative, and they make you feel like the only person in the room. But that same intensity can also lead to things like mood swings and jealousy, even a fear of being abandoned.
So it's like a constant back and forth, exciting 1 minute and exhausting the next.
Exactly. The key is for both people in the relationship to understand how 21s experience emotions. It's all about communication, setting boundaries, and finding healthy ways to deal with those big feelings.
Communication is key.
Got it.
But it's not just romantic relationships, right? What about friendships and family dynamics?
Right. Life Path 21 people are usually very loyal and caring friends, but they can also fall into the trap of people-pleasing and putting everyone else's needs before their own. It's that savior complex thing.
Yeah, I get that. They have so much empathy, but they have to be careful not to burn themselves out trying to fix everyone else's problems.
Right. Learning to take care of themselves is crucial for having healthy relationships across the board.
So boundaries are important, both in romantic relationships and with friends and family. Okay, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about something a bit more practical. What about money? Does numerology have anything to say about how 21s handle finances?
It's interesting. Our sources don't give specific financial advice, but they do talk about some personality traits that can affect how people manage money, like that entrepreneurial spirit we talked about. That can be a big advantage. 21s are full of ideas and they're not afraid of risk, which can lead to financial success.
But they can also be a little all over the place. Wouldn't that make it hard to stick to a budget or a long-term financial plan?
That's the thing. They might be great at making money, but not so great at managing it. It's all about finding the balance between following their passions and being financially responsible.
So maybe teaming up with someone who's really good with details and organization could be a good strategy.
That's a great point. Collaboration is really important for 21s, not just in business, but in all parts of life. Surrounding themselves with people who balance out their strengths and weaknesses can help them succeed.
All right, so we've covered relationships and finances. What about health? Is there anything specific to Life Path 21 when it comes to health?
It's interesting. Our sources don't really talk about physical health issues specifically, but they do emphasize how important emotional well-being is for this life path. Remember that emotional roller coaster we talked about? Well, those big highs and lows can really affect the body if they're not managed well.
So finding healthy ways to cope isn't just about feeling good. It's about taking care of your whole self.
Exactly. Things like stress management, mindfulness, and self-care are even more important for a 21. Remember, those big emotions are powerful. They need a healthy outlet.
It's like trying to ride a wild horse. You need the right skills and tools to stay in control and enjoy the ride.
I love that analogy. Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to go back to something we mentioned earlier, those hidden talents and intuitive abilities that are often associated with Life Path 21. Any advice for our listeners on how to tap into those?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one thing to know you might have these gifts, but how do you actually use them?
Here's the thing. Intuition isn't always obvious or dramatic. It's often subtle, like a whisper. The key is to pay attention to those gut feelings, those sudden insights, those moments that feel like coincidences but maybe aren't.
So it's about being more aware of those little nudges from the universe.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to follow those nudges, even if they take you off the beaten path. That's where the magic happens. Remember, Life Path 21 is all about embracing the unusual and trusting your gut.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's definitely clear that Life Path number 21 is a complicated and unique path. But I keep coming back to this question. If someone's listening and thinking, okay, this sounds a lot like me, but what do I actually do with this information?
That's where the real work starts. It's not enough to just understand these ideas. You have to actually use them in your life. So for all the 21s listening, here's what I recommend. First, recognize your strengths. You have this incredible capacity for creativity, leadership, and empathy. Don't be afraid to use those gifts.
And what about the challenges, the emotional ups and downs, the tendency to get distracted, that feeling of karmic pressure? How do you deal with that stuff?
Don't try to ignore those things. Being aware of them is the first step to changing them. If you know you're prone to mood swings, find healthy ways to manage them. If you have trouble focusing, experiment with different strategies to help. And if you feel burdened by karmic debt, remember that it's not a punishment. It's an opportunity for growth.
So it's like we're giving our listeners a toolbox.
Yeah.
They have all these incredible tools, but they have to figure out which ones to use and how to use them effectively.
Yeah.
It's like we've given them a sneak peek into the Life Path number 21 handbook. But let's be real. Life doesn't usually come with clear instructions. So how can someone actually take all this information and make it work for them?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's not enough to just know this stuff. You have to put it into practice. So for all you 21s out there listening, if you're thinking, all right, this is me, but now what? Here's what you do. Take some time to think about what we've talked about. Which strengths really resonate with you? Which challenges do you see in yourself?
It's almost like looking in the mirror and saying, okay, this is me. How do I work with this?
Exactly. And remember, you're not on this journey alone. There are resources out there, groups of people who get it, and even numerologists who can help you along the way.
That's true. Sometimes it makes all the difference just having someone who understands this life path to talk to.
Definitely. And don't forget about your own intuition. As a 21, you probably have a strong inner voice. So learn to listen to it. It might lead you to new opportunities or help you through tough times.
So pay attention to those gut feelings, those sudden insights, those moments that seem like coincidences.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to follow those instincts, even if they take you off the well-worn path. That's often where you'll find the good stuff. Remember, Life Path 21 is all about being unique and trusting your gut.
It's like we're giving everyone permission to break free from expectations, to find their own way, even if it looks different from what everyone else is doing.
I like that. And remember, numerology is just one tool for understanding yourself. It's not the whole story. It's one piece of the puzzle.
So don't let the numbers define you. Use them as a starting point, a way to explore.
Right. And if you're really interested in numerology, keep learning. There's a ton of information out there, from ancient traditions to modern takes on it.
It's like opening a door to a whole new way of understanding yourself. And who knows, maybe you'll discover talents and patterns you never even knew you had.
That's the beauty of self-discovery. It's a journey that never really ends. And for a Life Path 21, it's probably going to be full of exciting twists and turns and moments of real growth.
That's a great way to put it. Well, everyone, that wraps up our deep dive into Life Path number 21. We've talked about a lot today, explored both the bright side and the shadow side of this unique path. And if you're a 21, remember you have a ton of potential. Embrace your strengths, work through your challenges, and never stop exploring who you are.
And if you're not a 21, well, remember that every life path has its own lessons and opportunities. This deep dive might help you understand your own journey a little better, too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this exploration. We hope you got something valuable out of it, and maybe even a little bit of inspiration. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and keep diving deep.